Hello, we are starting with the last session this afternoon. My name is Cruz. I'm the director of the Bartlett School of Architecture, and I was asked to moderate and chair this last session. This last session, as you can see, is called Technology in the Future Culture. And I'm taking the opportunity to use this session to discuss later on what uncertainty means. And we just started having a really interesting discussion just standing there and wondering what really the main theme that was chosen for smart geometry this time meant for us. Now, a lot what we have been looking at in terms of the new technologies and their potentials is indeed creating a level of uncertain future. This is sort of obvious, and I guess we all sort of believe in that. Nonetheless, one has to say that a lot of the presentations came across as having a lot of certainty, interestingly as well. So I guess the potentials and capabilities of our technologies are on the one hand amazing. On the other hand, they make us question where we are going towards to. What is the aim? What is probably also missing? Where are the dangers slightly in what we are achieving? I noticed that quite a few of the speakers and panelists in this last session are actually involved in academia, and this is probably one of the things that in academia is very much part of what we do, which is to think critically about what is happening, both in academia and in practice. I think it's obvious that there is a whole new role of architects, designers, engineers, and a very complex relationship which is increasingly more interdisciplinary. And I remember when, now more or less 12 years ago, we had a student who was working as a fourth and fifth year student in 4 places at the same time. He was working in the microbiology department at UCL. He was working in our studio. He was working in the CAD/CAM workshop, and he was working at the RCA in the glassblowing workshops. And he was dealing at the end with more or less 12 people. That was the way in which he was producing his design. And it was indeed sort of a big wake-up call. There was a big change in how a student in academia was being trained. The student couldn't be only trained by the tutors. There was a multidisciplinary group around him that he was networked with who enabled him to do the work he was doing. I think the word experimentation came up a few times. This is obviously of key relevance, and I believe that part of the interpretation of what uncertainty means is linked to the idea of experimentation. In fact, that everything that we are doing in this field is part of a process of experimentation. It doesn't believe in a truth in its own right, and perhaps as a critique against our modernist sort of inheritance of the 20th century, where there was, at least from our perspective, a lot of certainty. The experimentation right now is much more uncertain and less predictable. And I think there's also a level of speculation, and I would like maybe this group to discuss that. What are we aiming for, and what is probably what we need to get where some of these experiments are leading us to achieve? So I introduce the speakers and the panelists. First of all, the first panelist is Bruce Davison. He is the director, or one of the directors of Amanda Levet Architects, where he leads the computational research group. Bruce is a cluster champion this time at Smart Geometry, and they entitled his group Volatile Territories. And he's currently leading at Amanda Levet a very large master plan in the UK. Bruce. Shane Berger, one of the directors of Smart Geometry and or co-directors since 2010. He has been contributing to Smart Geometry for many, many years. Shane, at the introduction, sort of explained how he even got to this, and it all has to do with his involvement with Grimshaw Architects back, I think, to 2003. And he then became with Grimshaw, he founded the computational design unit at Grimshaw in 2007. He joined Woods Bagot in New York in 2011, and as I said, has been one of the great key figures in the last few years in driving smart geometry. Shane. Speakers, we have Brady Peters. Brady Peters is co-editor of the book Inside Smart Geometry that you all probably have now in your hands. He also is editor of the new AD Computation Works. Brady is an architect and researcher specializing on computer programming and digital fabrication. He was for a long time associated to Foster & Partners, and he also worked for Bureau Happold here in London. Currently, and actually for the last 5 years, as I understand, he is living in Copenhagen, and he is now a PhD fellow at CETA, at the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Copenhagen. And he has been part of Smart Geometry as a tutor and co-organizer since 2005, so one more person who has been driving this group for very intensively for a long time. Manuel Kretzer. Manuel Kretzer is a researcher and educator at CARD at the ETH Zurich. He's also partner at a responsive design studio based in Zurich and Cologne. And he recently co-founded Materiality Research Network, which is an online platform focusing on smart materials in architecture. Manuel. And Sean Hanna is a lecturer in space and adaptive architectures at UCL. He's the director of the Bartlett's MSc and MRes programs in adaptive architecture and computation, and is the academic director of UCL's doctoral training center in virtual environments, imaging and visualization. He's also a member of the space group that is noted as one of the UK's highest performing research groups in the field of architecture and the built environment in the last RAE, and was supported by 3 big EPSRC platform grants.